I did it! I did it, you guys! 1 month, no video games. It's been the best month of my life. Let me explain. There were 9 amazing things that I've noticed have changed in my life since I have quit video games. Number one is I am no longer in a rush. Right before I quit video games, I was really getting into a lot of timed aspects into the video games that I was already playing, and they were starting to stack on top of each other. For example, mobile games, you know, where you have to come back to the game in 8 hours to check up on your mafia gang job, or your if your tomato has grown so you could sell it. Well, I was playing Elder Scrolls Online, and I was sending things off to get crafted, and I'd have to come back in a day, 2 days, and I would have to take that items, as well as feed my horse. I would have to feed my horse every 20 hours in order to make it an even more powerfuler horse. And it really started to stack on top of games, or I was playing Mad Max, and Mad Max, I had to come back and every so hours that they would give me the in-game currency for free. And Fallout Shelter, I would have to come back and tell my followers to come home, or else they were gonna die, and I would have to do the missions for them. And I was always in a rush. I would wake up and the first words that came out of my mouth were Xbox on. My TV would come on, I would grab my controller, and I would manage all of my resources. When I was out with my friends, when I was out in school, at class, I always had a rush. When that was done, I wanted to go home as soon as possible to manage my resources. Those are no longer in my life anymore, and I'm in no longer of a rush. I could take my sweet time to walk back to my car from class, enjoy the walk. Or when I wake up in the morning, I no longer have an urge to jump on anything. That has probably have been one of the greatest things that I've loved about quitting video games. Number 2, I made numbers, I'm gonna use them. Number 2 is deciding to take action on important things becomes a lot easier. Like managing my health, or cleaning my room, getting rid of the bed behind me in order to change my life habits, have just been a lot easier because there's no longer that blockade of I want to play video games. There's that blockade of there's no video games. That means nothing's gonna stop me from doing that action, where waking up in the morning, I want to check up on my resources, and then I meet a friend and I start playing with my friend for a couple hours, and before I know, the day's gone. Without that being there, I wake up and I think, what needs to be done today? My homework, I need to exercise, and I need to clean my room. Got it. And I just do all of that stuff. Okay, my camera's falling over. And nothing stops me from it, except my own lack of willpower, and I have more willpower because I don't drain my willpower anymore on the things that don't really matter, like managing my Fallout resources. Number 3, I noticed that I'm very thankful for this is, come on Tony, use your list. Number 3 is more family time. Since I'm no longer playing video games, since there's no longer a rush to get anywhere, since I'm no longer trapped in that cold emphasis of time that is video games, the family time that I have becomes a lot more precious, and I become a lot more appreciative of it because I don't feel like it's a hindrance to me anymore. Which is sad because I used to think that family time was hurting me because it was keeping me from doing the things that I wanted to do, which was to play video games and manage my resources and see my friends online. But without that being there anymore, it's really nice to actually just sit down and talk to your family for once without feeling like you need to get going somewhere and that you hate that they're there and they're eating your time. You now appreciate that they're there spending time with you. Number 4 is gonna be the replacement of habits, because without the habit of video games anymore, you're gonna have a lot more time. I remember putting an X amount of hours into video games because I had to do a daily challenge for this game, daily challenge for that game, daily challenge for that game. That's no longer there, and I realized I need to fill that time with perhaps focusing on my homework. For me, it was actually more focusing on my health. I started going to the gym more, I started going outside, doing more running, and for me it was actually working on this YouTube channel and creating more videos and more content as one of the new habits that I picked up, and I'm happier now that I'm doing those things. So that was a wonderful thing that happened when I stopped playing video games. I'm actually gonna use the list this time. Number 5 is better sleep. Because remember I said the first thing I would do when I'd wake up is I would say Xbox on. Well, I wouldn't say been sleeping in, but when I've been waking up, my morning routine has been a lot more calmer. And I've actually been starting to wake up sooner to start getting more stuff done in the day because I've been so much more productive without video games. And it's also part of the fact is that I'm going to sleep sooner. When I used to play video games, I'd have a friend who's overseas, and he would play before he would go to work, and for me that would be before I'd fall asleep. And I would say, I'll stay an extra hour up and I'll play with you, and before you know, 1 hour becomes 2 or 3 because someone else gets online and you want to play with them, or you realize that there's this challenge, or you're so close to leveling up, your endorphins kick in and you want that pleasure sense you get of leveling up, and before you know it, it's 5 a.m. and you gotta start the next day and you've got 0 sleep. I don't have those days anymore. If I do, it's because I'm out editing and I'm out creating stuff, and that's just a much better feeling to have than to realize your entire day got wasted doing digital thumb wrestling on a controller. Without the urge to play video games, I've been going to sleep sooner and I've been getting a lot better of a sleep. Now, let's see, we're gonna use the list. Number 6, that's a very poorly drawn 6, I know. Playing video games at social gatherings becomes a lot more fun. I've been to a couple social gatherings throughout the month, and there was Smash Brothers that we played, there was Mario Party that we played, and there was a VR headset that I got to play with and have a lot of fun. And I became a lot more appreciative when I did play those games with my friends because it felt a lot more relaxing and social. When I used to play video games daily and I would go to the event where there would be video games, I was incredibly competitive in it. I would be upset if I won or if I lost. But with quitting playing video games, it became more of I'm just happy I'm here and enjoying the good time with my friends, and that's really a feeling that I've missed for a very, very long time. And what people say is if you do something every single day for a very, very long time, eventually you're gonna get sick of it and it's gonna feel like a chore or a hassle to do. And I feel like giving up video games for a month actually helped me regain the feeling of enjoying video games again for the video games that they are, not for the achievement points or for the titles that you get for beating your friends. I would honestly just quit video games for that point alone because I was actually really starting to hate video games, and quitting video games actually made me love them more, which is amazing. And number 7 is you just appreciate life more. You realize that there's no longer another virtual you. The only you that there is the one right here that you're working on in real life. And you start noticing the trees more. You start noticing the springtime, how the leaves are growing, how the leaves fall down during the winter, and you really just start noticing all the finer details of life, and you start appreciating them a lot more. You start noticing how exercising or what kind of foods you eat start affect your health a lot more because you start caring for your body and your surroundings a lot more rather than straight jumping into the game and focusing on what happens to your character in the game. You got a new character to love and respect, and that is your own body, and that has just been the greatest thing ever is learning how to fall in love with yourself all over again, which was quite a lot of fun for me. Number 8 is the one that I had a lot of fun with, and that is the willingness to try new things, because you're going to get new habits, you're going to have a lot more free time, and because of that, I decided to change my mindset just a little bit and get out of my comfort zone. One of the things I did is I went to a heavy metal concert. I've never been to a concert before in my life, and heavy metal is the last music I'd probably be listening to. But I did that. It was a leap of faith, and I had a lot of fun, and I would not take that experience back for anything. And it's just something that you're going to start doing without playing a lot of video games, is you're gonna start saying yes to a lot of other things to fill that void of time that you don't have anymore. And that's a good thing, because the more experiences you have, the more new experiences you have, the more you learn about yourself, of whether you like stuff or not. And life just becomes a lot more exciting altogether. And number 9, the one thing that everybody loves, is you're gonna have more money. I already noticed a surplus of money that I usually did not have, because if you bought one full game for a year for $60, that's $720 that you're spending a year, not to mention a console that you pick up every other year, like the new ones, not counting the microtransactions you might spend, not counting the DLC or the complete editions of the game that's coming out, not counting the sales where you're like, oh, this game is super cheap and I've always wanted to try this game. And I'm really happy to see that I'm no longer spending money on that, and then that money is actually coming back to me, and I get to use that money to invest in myself, to invest in new experiences for me, to invest into the things that I love, like this channel. And come on, everybody could use a little bit more money. Now, there's 2 things that's bad about quitting video games. Number 1 is you don't get to see your friends as often as you do, at least the ones that live out of state. The ones out overseas especially, because video games was a way that we got to communicate together. But it turned out to be a good thing, actually, quitting video games, because recently I just messaged all of them, or I called them, and we just talked. And we communicated on a much deeper level. And seeing that friend every single day online actually made us appreciate our friendship a lot less. And then when you actually did get the chance to communicate with them, not through video games, I felt like I got a much stronger bond between our friends, and we appreciated that a lot more. So I think that that was a good thing. Another number 2 thing that I noticed that I wasn't really enjoying about quitting video games, and that is not being able to talk to other gamers the same way, where they would bring up, oh, this game's coming out this week, or did you hear about the new console coming out? And I'm no longer in that loop, and having conversations with other gamers becomes really hard to do. But I'm okay with that, because with me changing my habit of not playing video games, I also want to change the habit of associating myself with better friends and people who don't play as much video games and are more ambitious about life. So that's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing, because it's a level of social interaction that gets tougher to communicate with. But because of that, you're also going to be filling it with a lot more books that you're reading now, or hobbies that you're doing, and you're going to find new people to talk about that, and you're going to start talking and learning how to talk about new subjects. So it really actually ended up being like 11 good things that happened since I've quit video games. And if you haven't done it, and you're thinking about quitting video games, from someone who's already done it for a month, I would highly recommend that you do. If you're not sure about it, take your console, take what you have to do that has your games on it, and give it to your parents, give it to a friend, put it, or if you have self-discipline, just put it in your closet. And if you haven't touched it for a week or a month, then you know you can throw it away, and you can make that clear decision through your head, because you know how you're gonna feel not playing that game. What I did with my Xbox is I put it in my closet and I went a week without playing it. And a week without playing it, I realized I just had no urge to, and my 1 week was amazing than like the past 3 months I had playing Xbox. So I realized, okay, I'm definitely going to get rid of this. So I would definitely try that way of easing out of games if you're thinking about it. And if you do, and when you do, leave some comments down below and we can share our experiences and how this is changing our lives altogether. So until then, this has been Tony Sticks, and may you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. So I took a little break, I sat down, and I threw an acorn into the lake, and these ducks walked up to me, and they're like, is that food? Are you throwing food at us? Don't eat that, that's an acorn.